Hello, you. Welcome back to Cody Shattuck's Small Town Startup. I'm so happy to be seeing you today. I want to talk today to you about habits, and I want to talk to you about, how they can take hold of our lives, the repetitive things that we do every day, maybe subconsciously that we don't realize, that are getting us into these cycles and creating these things for ourselves that we sort of really don't want, but have been doing it for so long that it's just become our life. And it doesn't have to be this way forever. And so I want you to say this to yourself, like I've said to myself many times. Okay, my habits are a byproduct of my emotional odometer. Okay, my habits are a byproduct. Okay, they're what happens due to my emotional odometer. However I'm feeling, maybe, in those couple of days or that day or that week is going to basically determine what my weekend's going to look like, what my after dinner situation is going to look like, how I'm going to act. Like, is my buddy's asking me to go to the gym to be their buddy that day, and I'm not feeling it that day. I'm more feeling, going to have a half a dozen Dunkin' Donuts. You know what I'm saying? And so it's our emotions that are constantly going this way, going that way, and is what really gets us into these situations where we feel out of control. So what I want to say to you today is I kind of want to give you a few helpful tips, and so that you can apply, okay, into whatever your habit is that you want to get a handle on. And hopefully it hasn't become an addiction. I'm talking to more of you out there who have habits that you're trying to get a handle on, not so much an addiction. That might be a little bit more involved. And so how are they compared? So habits are usually created out of loss aversion versus the desire for gain. And so if we talk about, going to work all week just to live for the weekend, right? We want to get through this stressful week of work so that we can get to the weekend and we can just let go, we can forget, and we can just indulge, so to speak, in whatever impulses or obsessions or cravings that we might be having. Because it's the end of the week, right? We deserve a little reward for the work and the stress that we put in. To an extent, right? To an extent. But if you've repeated a certain thing every weekend because you've gotten through a stressful week, then it becomes almost like a cycle that it's hard to break from. So if there's something that you want to do on a particular weekend that doesn't line up with what you've been doing, if you want to change your habit, if you want to go to the gym every Saturday morning instead of sleeping in, your mind and your emotions are comparing, well, if I do that, then I'm going to be giving up precious sleep in time. And if I'm comparing it to having to get up earlier and going to work out, man, that takes more work. That's taken away from that reward that I've worked so hard for all week. Or how about, getting home, at the end of the day and eating supper, right? Supper's like, okay, I got to eat supper. I'm hungry, let's get it done. But then you're like, oh, the sweet treat, when supper's over with. Like, I have this issue. Okay, I'm looking forward to dessert and I haven't even started eating dinner yet. Okay, and that can become a bad habit that I create every night after dinner. And then maybe another one would be, maybe you stay up late and maybe it's a Sunday night, right? You're prolonging your day off because you're delaying having to go to work the next day. But then what happens is you end up going to bed too late and you get up and then you're rushing all day. You're tired, you're drained, you're stressed out because you haven't slept enough. And it's the feeling of loss. Like, you don't want to lose out on these habits that you formed because you feel deserving of them and because your emotions are pretty much running the show, okay? And I'm guilty of this. We're all guilty of this to some extent or another. And what I have to say to you is, first and foremost, is that you have to want to reverse this to some extent. You have to want to change this a little bit. You want to get the wheels turning a different way. And so it takes more work to do that than it would be to sustain or to continue with this cycle that you've created. And this is where mindset plays huge, okay? This is where motivational speaking, I guess. This is where you listening to me right now really means something and hopefully resonates with you with what I'm saying. Because having that change in mindset, a little bit at a time, maybe it's one video at a time, is really going to play big in your actions every day and the way you're thinking about what you're doing every day, and maybe, catching that trigger that's making you feel like, man, I really need to go have a drink tonight, man. I'm so stressed out. Or I'm definitely going to double down on dessert tonight. I don't care about the progress that I've made in the gym because today I need it. I deserve it. Do you need it or do you deserve it? Right? Analyze this a little bit, guys. Identify what it is for you that's getting you to feel like this, okay? That's the first step, okay? And if you want to reverse this, by the way, if you've done this for a very, very long time, you can still change this thing. If it's something that you've done for a few months that you're like, man, I keep catching myself doing this thing, but how am I going to gain something if I keep doing this thing and I can't control this thing? Okay? They're, like I said before, they're impulsive. They're like obsessive cravings. You catch yourself during the day being like, man, I can't wait for this or I can't wait for that. And what usually ends up limiting ourselves, like if you're thinking to yourself, okay, it's Sunday night, I'm staying up till 11 o'clock, I should have been in bed 2 hours ago. What is going to make you, right, finally turn off Netflix and go to bed? It's almost the vision of you the next day being like dragging. It's you being like, oh man, like tomorrow is just gonna suck really, really bad unless I go to bed right now. It's usually like to the most dangerous extremes, right, in your mind before you until you pull the plug on yourself and tell yourself, okay, I gotta stop right here. It shouldn't get to the dangerous extremes before we do this, right? Because then we'd be catching ourselves in the bar, past the time when we said we're going to leave before we got there, having one, two, three too many drinks that we said we weren't going to have. We're having 3 pieces of cake instead of 1, and we're screwing up our progress because we're indulging in that moment and we can't say no. So how do we create new habits that better ourselves when we can't even figure out how do we stop this cycle of bad habits that maybe we've created? Well, first, like I said, you have to want to. And I'm going to give you a couple of tips now. If some of the examples I just gave are maybe some of the things you're struggling with. So, for instance, like me, if after dinner you're already looking for dessert like right away, like your taste buds are on flavor overload. You've told yourself you've done what you had to do in order to get to dessert, which is eat dinner. And you just can't, you don't know what to do unless you have dessert, right? So here's something I've done. Here's something you can do. Have a glass of water, okay? Have a glass of water after supper. Wash down what's in your mouth. Wash your taste buds off. And let the water sit, because the water, when it settles in your stomach, will expand, will make you feel fuller. And you just have to tell yourself in that moment, I'm going to have a glass of water, I'm going to wait, and I might not even feel like I want dessert after that. That's a good thing to try. I've tried it. It's worked for me. Check it out. The next thing you could do, maybe it's your job, right? Maybe when I gave you the example of going to work all week and looking forward to the weekend, maybe you choose work that you actually don't mind, okay? Maybe you have a job, you have something you're doing. Maybe you're starting a business. Maybe it's something that you're doing that you don't actually mind. And so getting up for Monday and going to work Tuesday through Friday, you're feeling accomplished. You're feeling good about what you did. Do you deserve a little reward on the weekend still? Probably. But do you have to go crazy bad habit, dangerous extreme with it? Absolutely not. And so just switching up how you're feeling during the day, every day at work, can make you feel obviously less stressed, make you feel like, oh, well, I don't have to, try so hard to cope with my emotions, but I'm feeling better about myself. I'm feeling better about what I'm doing. And so you're not being as triggered as much. You're not being triggered as much to want to do something that's, a bad habit. And about the staying up late, let's try to go to bed a little earlier, right? Shut the Netflix down around 9, right? Shut it down Sunday night, especially. If you're at Friday night and you're like, oh, I can stay up until 1 a.m., shut her down at 11, okay? Ensuring that you're going to get up the next day still feeling refreshed, rejuvenated, having energy to maybe go to the gym, sticking to what you told yourself. You're trying to gain here, right? We're not just trying to reverse, but we're trying to gain at the same time. And when we can finally substitute some of this reversing with gaining, then we're making progress again. Then we're back on the track that we want to be in our lives, doing the things that we want to be doing. And so think about this. These are just a few tips I've given you for a few things that I've come across myself that are very common. And so I want to leave you guys with this, okay? We limit our own discipline when we let our emotions loose. We limit our own discipline when we let our emotions loose. We are in control. Whether it feels like you are or not, you are in control, okay? When you get a trigger from the stress, from something, back it up a second. Slow it down. Identify what did it. Have a glass of water. Okay? Sit on it. Think on it. Don't just impulsively go right to maybe what you normally do. Okay? Man, I could go on and on. Guys, this is a great topic. I hope this little tidbit helped you, though. And if you guys have any questions, if you guys like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. And I cannot wait to see you guys in the next one. I'll see you guys.